Hello students, in this session we are going to talk about Marx theory of historical materialism. Okay, very important concept. So theory of historical materialism. Now one thing that you need to understand is the theory of historical materialism is actually having two parts. The first part is actually Marx's idea about society and individual. Okay, so society and individual. And the second part is actually his idea about change in society. So in simple terms, Marx's theory of historical materialism is all about his idea about society and change. So what is society? And then what do you mean by social change? So he is basically trying to understand what is society on the first part and what are the social changes. Okay, and when we discuss about social changes, we will discuss about the changes in existing society, and also we will see his prediction of futuristic society in terms of socialism, communism. Okay, so all these things we will discuss in detail. Now if you see few of the questions which are asked in the previous mains, directly you will get theory of historical materialism. So if it is asked, you need to write the same concept only. His theory of historical materialism is basically dealing with the general ideas about society and change. So first part we have already completed in the first session, in the previous session. So in the first session we have discussed about Marx's idea about society and individual. So the first part we have already done. The second part, the change part, is what we need to discuss today. Okay. Then critically examine Marx's theory of historical materialism. See, I've told you critically examine questions will be always asked in sociology, especially from thinkers. So you need to be in a position to critically examine each thinkers. Okay, for example, critically examine his subject matter, critically examine the perspective, critically examine the methods. All these questions are possible. Perspective, here it is conflict perspective. So when you critically examine, you will use a functionalist perspective. Similarly, when we criticize the perspective of Durkheim, we use Marx over there. Okay, so all those things we will discuss. And the structure of this also we have discussed, right? If the question is about critically examine, what you need to do is, first you will write the introduction, okay, of this theory, and in the introduction basically you can write a better introduction with his idea about society and change itself, and that is also a part of the theory. Okay, so there is no need to write a separate introduction. So introduction, okay, you can write, and then you can write what is this theory of historical materialism. For example, here critically analyze theory of historical materialism. So you write here historical materialism. If the question is about alienation, you write here alienation. If the question is about class struggle, you write here class struggle. Okay, but introduction will remain the same in all these areas, and that is what I have given you in the previous session. So the first session that we have talked about Marx is the introduction for all the questions which can be asked from Marx. What is that? Marx's idea about society and individual. Every text you can see that Marx's idea about society and individual. Marx's idea about society is in relation to production, and to undertake production, relations are essential, forces are essential. So Marx understood what is forces of production, what is relations of production, and what are the components in that. So we have seen that, and we have also talked about economic infrastructure, social superstructure. Okay, all these are composition of the society. And apart from when we discuss about individual, we talked about being and social being. So there is no need to have any confusion. If you missed out that video, please watch that video before you enter into this video. So it will be very easy for you to understand. And all these videos, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID, Zia Safir. Okay, or you join the Telegram channel, you'll get the video over there. Or if you have any doubt related to sociology or general studies or civil service preparation, you can get in touch with me if you need a mentorship program or a special personal guidance. Okay, or test series if you need to write with me. This is my number, 9790 892 697 or 98955 77775. Okay, so first part you have to do. So here we talked about critically analyze. The structure is what I'm telling you. Introduction, historical materialism. Then I've told you to follow this formula CCR, right? The first C is actually contribution. So whether the theory is, the question is about historical materialism or alienation or class struggle, it doesn't matter. The contribution of Marx remains the same. So you will prepare one paragraph for that, and you will write exactly the same in all critically analyzed answers. So contribution also remains same, introduction remains same, contribution remains same. Then you will write criticism. When you write criticism, this will be further divided into two. You will write general criticism and then you will write specific criticism. Okay, so general criticisms are like Marx is accused of being a reductionist, Marx is giving importance to economic infrastructure, Marx is giving importance to economic conditions or the material conditions, Marx is considered as a macro sociologist giving importance to society. Okay, he is using conflict perspective and trying to identify the dysfunctions only, whereas a lot of functions are there for each social institutions like family, religion, etc. But Marx is trying to understand everything in terms of dysfunctions. So it's a biased understanding. So all these are the general criticism. Apart from that, each theory suffers from specific criticisms. For example, the concept of communism, socialism, etc. is criticized. That is specific to this particular theory, historical materialism or mode of production or class struggle. Those are specific criticism. So that specific criticism you need to write here. General criticism, whatever be the question which is asked, whether it is historical materialism or alienation or class struggle, this part will be the same. So what all things are same now? Introduction is same, contribution is same, general criticism is same. What varies? The theory. If it is historical materialism, write that theory. If it is alienation, write that theory. And in specific criticism, if the question is about historical materialism, write specific criticism to historical materialism. If it is alienation, write about that. So here there will be a change. Here also there will be a change. What about conclusion? You will conclude this answer with this. What is this R? Relevance. You will write the relevance of Marx. Like till the time poverty and exploitation is there, Marx is considered so relevant. Till the time exploitation of man by man is there, Marx is considered as relevant. Though Marxian concepts like communism, socialism are utopian concept and it will never come into existence, but the concerns raised by Marx can never be ignored by a welfare state. Okay, so in that context, and you can say that Marx, the relevance of Marx, and this part also will be common for all the questions. So what we are going to do now, we are going to talk about historical materialism, this theory. This part we will do. CCR part we will do later. Towards the end, after discussing all the theory, I'll discuss CCR separately. I'll give you contribution which will fit into all the theories. I'll give you relevance which will fit into all the theories. I'll give you general criticism which will fit into all the theories. And for each theories, I will give you specific criticism also. So you will not face any problem with any of the question which is going to be asked from Marx, whether it is critically analyze, discuss, comment or anything. Okay, so let's other questions. Discuss Marx views about society, that is the first part. And according to Marx, what is the cause of change? So here views about society and change separately asked. It is actually historical materialism only. Discuss Marx theory of mode of production and highlight the features of the forces and relations of production. Then Marx theory of society. Marx theory of society means also the same. It could be Marx theory of mode of production. Mode of production and society are same. Or Marx uses the term social formation. All are representing society only. Okay. So we will discuss about historical materialism now. So understand this part. So his theory of historical materialism is understood in two parts. Okay. So first part is all about his idea about society, and the second part is his idea about change. Okay, so when we talk about his idea about society, we will be talking about production process. So his idea about production, we will be talking about forces of production, we will be talking about relations of production, we will be talking about economic infrastructure, we will be talking about social superstructure. Okay, and we will also talk about being, social being. Okay, so all these is what will come here. And do you think we need a separate discussion for this? We have already done this in the previous class. So I'm referring for this part of this particular theory for the previous class. Okay, so you attend the class and make it clear. The PDF is there, so you can read that and you can understand the first part. So we have done with the first part even before we start up the theory. Okay, it's already done. The second part, the change Marx understood in two phases. One are the changes in existing societies. Already what all things have happened. So changes in existing societies. So he understood existing societies and he also understood the changes in futuristic societies, or he also conceptualized the futuristic societies, which is what Marxian dream. Marx dream is that, okay, it may not come into existence, and the Chinese or China society and Russian society are the different versions of socialism and communism. That's not the actual communism that Marx talked about. Marxian version of communism is totally different to the so-called communism, socialism of those societies, okay, which is entirely different, which is a modified version. Marxian version is very difficult. It's a stateless society, it's a classless society. Everybody will be equal, everybody will be contributing to society as per their capacity, and everybody will be redistributed according to their needs. So there will be a total social disorder if one or the other forms of inequality is not present in society. That actually you understood when we discuss about functional theories of stratification. So society cannot function, okay? So a pure egalitarian society is never ever possible. One or the other forms of inequality will be there in all society. It was there in all non-forms of society, and it will be there in the future societies also, okay? So existing society and futuristic societies, okay? So existing societies, understand here, Marx understood in 4 stages. Primitive communism, where everybody was equal, okay? So primitive communism, okay, that is the first stage. Then ancient mode of production, I'm just writing MOP. Then feudal mode of production, okay, and then capitalist mode of production. Futuristic societies Marx understood in terms of socialist mode of production and communist mode of production. So these are the ideas about change according to Marx, okay? These are the Marxian idea about change. This is related to existing society, this is related to futuristic society. So he studied society and change in an evolutionary path, you can see here, and Marx understood the change from history by using an evolutionary perspective, and he understood the change of history in an evolutionary perspective or in a evolutionary path. You can see here primitive communism. Primitive communism is the ancient, the old society where everybody was considered equal. Everybody will have access to everything. There is no private property concept, okay? So everything is communally owned. So that's what primitive communism. Population is very less. Food is abundant in nature. There is no chances of struggle. There is no chances of conflict. There is no chances of competition. So everybody is considered equal, and there is no concept of private ownership. So that society is what Marx termed as primitive communism. But over a period of time, what happened from primitive communism? Over a period of time, population increased. When population increased, that result into scarcity of food, okay? So then scarcity of food is there. So to harness food, now you need some more techniques, tools, efforts, etc. So it will be developed by few people. So those people who developed the new tools, techniques, etc. to harness food, they hold the surplus food, okay? And others will be depending on that people. So the people who developed those techniques, tools, etc., they became the masters, and the people who are dependent on them became the slaves. And this society is what Marx terms as ancient mode of production, which is based on master-slave relationship, okay? So ancient mode of production is based on master-slave relation. I'm saying this again, when the competition is increasing, some people are depending on some other section. So those who are depending, they are actually the slaves, and the owners of the tools, techniques, etc., they hold the surplus of food, so they became the masters. This is what ancient mode of production based on master-slave relationship. Now, even these tools and techniques is not enough for some time. After some time, so what will happen is, from the group of masters, some people will emerge. They are related to settled agriculture. The new idea will arise that is related to settled agriculture. You can start cultivating rather than completely depending on the nature. So then you will start settled agriculture. Okay, not all the masters will be part of settled agriculture. Few will be part of settled agriculture. So this is a group of masters. Okay, some section, the small section will be related to settled agriculture. Now, these people will pressurize settled agriculture means further slaves, exploitation is increasing, right? Already slaves exploitation is increasing. They are going collecting food and everything is done by the slaves only because they are the property of masters. When settled agriculture is also coming, now they are pressurized to produce more food, so it also results into exploitation of the slaves. So ever increasing exploitation you can see here. Okay, and what will happen is when the mature condition exists, you need to quote this word just like that. The sentence should be like this in all the stages. When the mature condition exists, there will be a revolution. Every time Marx used this word, when the mature condition exists in this society, in the next society, and in every society, even in capitalist society also, when the mature condition exists, workers revolt and will move to socialism. So here also, when the mature condition exists, the slaves revolt. And slaves will capture control over entire forces of production because they know how to produce, what to produce, etc. So now they will start cultivating their own. Okay, and they will enter into a new mode of production, that is feudal mode of production, where the entire production will be done by the erstwhile slaves. Actually, you know what is actually happening is these people are the agents of settled agriculture. Okay, so in the feudal mode of production, what will happen is they become the lords. I'll explain this point in more detail, the way the class struggle is proceeding and who is initiating this and how is it working out, the reasons, everything in the theory of class struggle. You will understand it much more over there, but now understand only the change part, how the struggle is happening, how is it operating, and how is it entering into different mode of production. We will discuss in the theory of class struggle. So here just understand there is a class struggle, so a new mode of production emerged, that is feudal mode of production, where the slaves who captured everything, they will start cultivating, they actually become serfs. And these people, masters, will become lords. The reason why erstwhile masters become lords is actually, see, already they are part of the settled agriculture. And now even though you are ready to cultivate, you are cultivating, you have everything, but still the serfs are totally dependent on the lords, feudal lords, in terms of land and protection. They don't have the land and they need also some place to save the produce. So for land and protection, the lords are still dependent upon the serfs are still dependent upon the lords. Although they think that they are producing everything and they are controlling everything, but still there is a dependency. And you know, you have to pay some revenue for this, so you will be charged some taxes for this land, okay, and protection. And over a period of time, the demand for more taxes, or taxes are paid in terms of part of produce. It will be 1/3, then it will be 1/2, then it will be 2/3. Like that, it keeps on increasing to 70%, 80%, 90%. This is what exploitation here. And when this exploitation reaches at its peak, the serfs will revolt. Okay, by this time there is an alternate mode of production which has emerged, not mode of production, alternate setup that is related to industry. You can see here already when it was in ancient mode of production, settled agriculture emerged. So actually the slaves had an option to go to this. Here also now industry is emerging, so serfs have another option now. So this is also one of the reasons when we talk about mature condition. So now slaves, the serfs are thinking that the factories emerged. It is based on wage system. Whenever you want, you can go and work. In case of feudal system, you are tied on land. Every time you should be in the land, right? And you should be working. But if it is factory system, whenever you want to work, you can work. Whenever you don't want to work, you don't want to work. Whatever work you do, you get the wages. Okay. So because of this false belief, you know, when the mature condition exists, the revolt against the lords and will enter into a new mode of production, that is capitalist mode of production. See, in the capitalist mode of production, serfs were expecting that you will get wages and whenever you want you can go work, etc. But it's a false belief, right? Because if you need to survive, there is no option but you have to go and work, because whatever you need for the survival have to be bought from the market by paying money. So if you need to pay money, you have to go, you have to work, you have to face all the exploitation of the capitalist system. And again, this exploitation logic will reach at its peak in capitalism in terms of low wages, in terms of inhuman working condition, in terms of pressure to produce more. Finally, the workers will unite and workers will revolt when the mature condition exists and will enter into socialism. Socialism is actually a transitional stage. Here you will see workers capture everything and it's a rule of workers. So capitalism to socialism. So this is actually understood as rule of workers. Workers control everything. So here also the class is actually only one class is there, working class. And here the problem is the capitalists face some problem, huge problems here. The workers will retaliate for all the struggles that they faced during the previous stage. Okay, so this is actually a difficult stage for the capitalist. And then, you know, next stage, this is, I've told you, this is a transitional phase, right? And then it will finally end in communism. It will finally end in communism, where everybody will be equal, workers will renounce their power, and everybody will be equal. It is a pure egalitarian society. Everybody will contribute as per their talent and ability, and everybody will be redistributed according to their needs. And very famous statement of Marx: communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the product of others. See, when we talk about communism, it is not depriving you from using any product of the nature, but what it does is basically to deprive him with the power to subjugate the labor of others in terms of such appropriation. So if I wish to get something from the nature, suppose if I want fish, I can go to the river or the sea, I can catch fish. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. But what it does is it deprives you it deprives you to subjugate the labor of others. I cannot use the labor of others to get the fish. I cannot tell somebody go and get it for me. Okay, so that is why I have told you exploitation will not be there in communism. So when we talk about primitive communism, this was the situation. You can get anything from nature. You are not the property of anyone, and there is no concept of private property also. Now here also we are reaching to that stage. So we started off with primitive communism. Okay, there is no class. And we have discussed about, when we discussed about feudal mode of production, there were ancient mode of production, there were masters and slaves, two class. And then we discussed about feudal mode of production, which is related to lords and serfs, right? So you can see here the masters became feudal lords and slaves became serfs. Their condition is not changing. And in capitalist mode of production, the lords becoming the capitalist and the serfs becoming the workers, and this will result into socialism. So socialism is actually a transitional phase. Here only workers will be there, okay, only one class, and finally this will end in communism. So there is no class. So it is similar to primitive communism. There also no class, here also no class. Everybody was equal here, everybody is equal here. What is the only difference? That was primitive communism. Now it is communism. Primitive communism, the techniques and everything was not there. Here more techniques, better developed society. So advancements you can see in society. The society's nature is different, but everybody is considered equal. It is an egalitarian society. Now if you see, is it possible? Is it ever possible? It is never possible. So that is a most important criticism of Marx. It is a distinct reality. It is a utopian concept, etc. So this is all about his theory of historical materialism. Very simple. On one side is idea about society, that is related to FOP, ROP, economic infrastructure, superstructure, etc. And on the other side is idea about change. Now we will move on to the PDF. With that we will explain sentence by sentence. I'll explain. You will understand everything. Okay. So Marx's theory of historical materialism deals with his general ideas about society and change. So this is what I've told you. One part you need to write about his idea. The other part is change. Marx never used the term historical materialism. Instead, he frequently used materialistic conception of history for explaining his views. His idea about society and change are contained in all his book, but the purest exposition of his theory is found in Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy, 1859. You should be writing the names of the book if the question is asked from thinkers. So that will be a value addition. And it is very easy to remember. You don't want to remember each and every book. The relevant book you need to remember. Hardly you need to study 20 theories, so you need to remember the 20 books. And most of the theory and the book name is also connected. For example, when we talk about suicide, it is suicide. When we talk about division of labor, it is division of labor. When we talk about religion, it is the elementary forms of religious life. Some small changes there. Apart from that, it will be very easy for you to remember the book names, okay? And Marx also, it is not that difficult. Okay. His theory is called historical. Why it is called historical? Because society is understood in terms of a process of evolution from one stage to another through history. That is what we have seen, okay? And why it is called materialistic? Because Marx understands society as well as its change in terms of changing material condition. I'll explain this further. So every change is because of change in material condition according to Marx. The material condition relate to the production process. Okay, so everything related to production, everything related to change in material condition. The production setup is changing, right? Ancient mode to feudal mode, the way you produce things are changing. Feudal to capitalism, the way you produce things are changing. So the production is changing, so there is a change in society. That's what, based on material condition. Thus, Marx's theory of historical materialism aims at understanding society as well as evolutionary process of change in terms of material conditions or production process. Now here, so I hope you won't face any problem with the first paragraph. Now we will move on to some other important areas only for your understanding. Marx has drawn considerably from Hegel's dialectic logic, okay, for explaining the process of change. See, dialectic logic is like this. For example, this is a society, so here some contradictions are there. So what will happen, these contradictions will result into the new society, because when this contradiction is there, some new ideas will be developed to solve the contradictions. So Hegel's concept is dialectical idealism. Some new ideas will be there that will solve the problems of contradiction. For example, at this time when we are delivering the lecture, the nation is facing so much problem with corona, right? So what is the contradiction in this society? Corona. Coronavirus is the problem, okay? So we are talking about this virus, COVID-19 is the problem. So here, what is the new idea? Like now you cannot go to schools, you cannot go to the coaching centers for attending the classes. So that is a contradiction, that is a problem in the society. So a new idea emerged, right? Through Zoom or through YouTube, you can attend the classes. So that is actually giving solution to that problem. So we are entering in, we are actually transforming the way we have seen things or the way we have done things. So we are entering into a different type now, okay? So here also after some time you may face some problem, maybe because of internet, maybe because of different other cost, some hidden cost, etc. When you face some problems, some new ideas will come, so you will enter into another society. There also problems, so some new ideas will enter into another society. Like that it keeps on moving. That's what dialectical idealism. The contradictions will be there, that's what dialectics. And then ideas will change or solve that, that is what dialectical idealism. What Marx says is, it is not the ideas. It is not the ideas, rather it is a change in material condition will result in changes. Because change in material condition is what creating ideas according to Marx. If you remember in the previous session we have talked about economic infrastructure. And ideas fall where? In the superstructure. So who is shaping the superstructure? Economic infrastructure shaping the superstructure. So ideas are actually shaped by the economic infrastructure. That's why Marx ignored his idea about idealism. He accepted dialectics, but the change is because of not ideas but material condition. Because of change in material conditions, new ideas will come according to Marx. Okay, so he proposed his own concept, that is dialectic materialism. And you don't believe that this question was asked in 2011 GS prelims. You can go back and see in 2011 GS prelims, this question was asked in prelims. Okay, Marx concept, Marx theory is based on which concept? Dialectical idealism. Only a sociologist can do this. Okay, so similarly, Marx's emphasis on materialism is a modified version of Feuerbach's anthropological naturalism. According to Marx, the material forces only constrain the choices available to the individual, and individual can only decide within the constraints. Similarly, Marx overturns Hegel's concept of dialectical idealism to propose his own dialectical materialism. This is what I have told you, it's not ideas, it is a change in material condition according to Marx, which is more important and the reason for change. Marx's theory of historical materialism contained two parts, the conception about society and the evolutionary model. So this I have just explained what is the two parts. There is conception of society, here you will write concept of production, the idea of production, FOP, force of production, relations of production. You know this, economic infrastructure, superstructure, system. See, if you are watching this video first, please watch the previous video, then only you can complete it, okay? So this we have discussed in the previous video. Evolutionary model, if you see, existing societies and futuristic societies. Existing society, 4 stages: primitive communism, ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production. Futuristic, again in 2 stages: socialist mode of production and communist mode of production. So Marx's theory of historical materialism Our historical conception of society is not only based on explaining the changes in the existing society, but also aims at developing futuristic mode of production, futuristic mode of change. Because his theory is this theory is understood by Marx in terms of 4 stages, whereas future is conceptualized in terms of 2 stages. Okay, so existing society 4 stages and future 2 stages. Now we will actually see the second part, that is the evolutionary model. So Marx's evolutionary concepts start with a very primitive society where the needs are confined to the basic needs of survival. Food is abundant in nature. The tools required to harness food is very simple. There is no concept of ownership in the production process, and thus Marx termed this society or this stage as primitive communism. That's the first stage. Then, with time, population increases and the demand for more food results in its scarcity. To meet this demand, new tools are devised which are owned by few. The owner of these tools also controls the surplus food and others are dependent upon them. With this, a new mode of production, ancient mode of production based on master-slave relationship comes into existence. I hope you know this, so there is no need to have any problem here, okay? Further, as population increases, slaves are pressurized to produce more and more food. This results in ever-increasing exploitation of slaves, masters becoming more powerful and slaves becomes more powerless. Now, within the ancient society, a new forces of production relating to settled agriculture emerged, and slaves were compelled to work on land without any incentives. When mature conditions exist, the slaves revolt and take control of these new forces of production. Every time when they revolt, they are taking control of the force of production, but ultimately they are not getting anything. Only in capitalism, when they capture everything, socialism will come. That's the correct one. Then there will not be any exploitation after that. But here you can see they are not changing their phase actually. And this is based on false consciousness, and in capitalism it is based on true consciousness. What is false consciousness, what is true consciousness, etc. actually asked us mains questions that we will discuss in detail, the process of class struggle in the theory of class struggle. Since that is a separate theory, I am not getting into that minute details here, otherwise I would have explained it here only. Okay. Thus, the struggle between masters and slaves culminate into a revolt, leading to initiation of new mode of production, which Marx termed as feudal mode of production. The erstwhile slaves become serfs who undertake cultivation, and the former masters continue to dominate. They became feudal lords. Serfs exist as independent sections of population within the society, but are still dependent upon the landlords in terms of land and protection. Serfs pay a part of the produce to the lands in the form of taxes. With time, the demand for increasing higher tax results in the exploitation of the serfs and the consequent struggle between the two. Within the society, new forces of production relating to factory system emerged, which are based on wage system. When the mature condition exists, if you see earlier, when the revolt was there, already an option emerged that was related to settled agriculture. Now also, when the revolt is going to happen, once setup is emerged, that is related to industry. Okay, when the mature condition exists, serfs revolt and move towards factories for work. With this, a new mode of production termed by Marx as capitalist mode of production based on capitalist worker relationship emerged. The capitalists were erstwhile lords and the workers were erstwhile serfs. So workers work in factories for wage. They are free to work. Workers in this system are exploited in terms of low salaries, poor or inhuman working condition, etc. This initiates a struggle between the capitalists and the workers, as their interests are contradictory. Their interests are contradictory because workers don't want to work more time, but capitalists want the workers to work more time. Workers want more wages, but the capitalists want to pay less wages. Workers want better working condition, but the capitalists think that it is very costly and unnecessary expense if you offer a better working condition. So all these interests are contradictory, so that result into a conflict. Although workers are free to sell their labor, they are still dependent upon the capitalist for their survival, as the things they need must be purchased from the market by paying money. Okay, so you cannot just simply sit in the home by saying that if I wish I can go and work, right? But you are forced to go out and work, otherwise you cannot survive. Nobody will produce food for you if you don't have money with you. Workers now control, so when the mature condition exists, the workers revolt. Workers now control all resources with abolition of private property. There will be a rule of workers and resources will be distributed as per one's own needs. This new society Marx termed as socialist mode of production. This society is transitional and eventually results into communism, when the workers will renounce their power and people will be free in the real sense. In socialism, I've told you workers are powerful. Now workers will renounce their power and everybody will be free in real sense. Everybody will be equal and it's an egalitarian society. There will be no state and no distribution of power. Marx states communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the products of nature or society. All what it does is to deprive him the power to subjugate the labor of others by means of such appropriation. So I hope you understood the statement. We have discussed it already. They will simply give you the statement and they will ask you to discuss, comment, critically analyze, etc. Most of the questions which is asked from Marx will be based on some statements. Okay. Thus, for Marx, the dynamic model of society is based on the following proposition. Now, what you need to know is this 5 proposition that I'm going to discuss, whether you are able to understand it or not. If you understood the theory. Okay. And if you are not able to understand, simply you didn't understood the theory. Okay, you can watch the video again and you can try to understand. And if you're not able to understand it here, you will not understand it anywhere else and ever. Okay. So, continuous changes in FOP, forces of production and relations of production in response to change in material condition, right? Material condition changes, forces and relations change. Like ancient to feudal, if you see, the forces of production change. Feudal to capitalism, again changes there, okay? Like that, keep on, forces of production keep on changing, relations also change. Master slave to lords and serfs to capitalist workers, like that. So this is a continuous process. Continuous struggle between two broad classes up till capitalism. So there is a struggle between two broad classes up till capitalism, then abolition of this system in socialism and communism. So you can see the two broad classes: primitive communism, no classes; ancient mode, masters and slaves; feudal mode, feudal lords and serfs; capitalism, capitalist and workers. Then there is no such struggle. Okay. Then continuous struggle between man and nature will finally end in communism. Continuous struggle to resolve the contradictions of preceding stage, the process will end in communism, because there won't be any contradictions in communist society according to Marx. A continuous struggle between one's being and social being will end in communism. Okay, because in communism everybody will be being, there is no social being, as everybody is equal, there is no differences. Thus, man make their own history, but they do not make it just as they wished or as they please. They do not make it under circumstances chosen by themselves, but under circumstances directly found, given and transmitted to them from the past. So I hope you understood. So that's about the discussion. If you have any doubt, please feel free to call me. You can get in touch with me in any of the phone number or the Instagram or Facebook or Telegram or in any way. Okay. So see you guys. Thank you.